Okay, can you all hear me? I'll try not to talk too loud. Come on in, grab a seat. I figure we'll have some stragglers as people are getting off work and piling in. Okay, well, the rest of the folks are grabbing some seats, and I expect stragglers, so no worries. We got a second round of this. We're going to do this all again at 6 o'clock. So, all right, well, welcome. My name is Lisha Moreland. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Middletown. Thank you so much for being here. And for those of you that filled out the public surveys, we got a lot of great responses, and we're not going to stop there. If you did not have a chance to fill out a survey, we do have hard copies out on the table in the hallway, along with a bin to put your completed one in. As well, as we start to go through this downtown refresh project, we may have potential committees. So if you're interested in serving on a committee, give us your contact information again on the sign-up sheet on the table in the hallway. So with that, just a couple of housekeeping things. Again, we'll let folks straggle in. And if you need refreshments or vending or bathrooms, they're at the end of the hallway. As you saw walking in, we have picture boards up. You'll see them here on the slides, but you can take time to get up close and personal with them out in the hallway. We will have staff out there that you can engage with, share curiosities with. When we get through this quick presentation, we'll talk about where we've been, where we are now, where we're going. And we're going to gather your information after that. Engage with us. You've shared some really great suggestions, benefits, and thoughts. Please continue that. I'll turn it over to our professional facilitator, and he'll gather that. Staff will collect all of it after the 2 sessions. We'll put answers together and address your curiosities, and then we'll publish that in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Alrighty, let's dive in. As you know, we've had a ton of time to work on downtown. Several things pop up. We've not had a very good track record. Let's just be honest. We haven't had a good track record. Now we have consolidated the department, so we are now Community and Economic Development. Council approved that at the end of last year. And so we're able to provide that sort of more cohesive effort in how we're redeveloping our city. That also brings us to the public engagement. We're asking you your thoughts. It matters. Now, I will also say, while we have some great ideas, fun ideas, the golden rule in economic development for any municipality is highest and best use of the area, okay? So that said, with the input that you all provided, I think we got a lot of opportunity. Whoops, let me go back. Okay, this is the boundary area for our downtown area that came from our comprehensive strategic plan that was adopted back in 2017. With that, we started to look at how can we repurpose areas? How do we redevelop them? Some of the challenges that we have had in the past with other developers is there is no placemaking. You have to have placemaking to bring people here. Oh, the one thing I just learned, this really cool feature, let me show you. Here we go. Okay, by color, I had too much coffee, okay, sorry. Historic area, transitional areas, civic area, riverfront area, recreation area, and residential area by color. So I'll just give you a second to sort of absorb that. And again, you can get up close and personal in the hallway. As we started to talk with developers, this is nothing new. These concepts have been presented to previous council regimes by other developers. I'm simply showing you this as an example of how things can be redeveloped. So, for instance, if you look at the top left where the green is, that is everything as it stands now. The green triangle, I did that earlier today. The green rectangle in the top is the CSO basin across the street that they're digging out. And I'll talk about that in a second. To the right, the yellow buildings, that is the current existing locations of some of those buildings being repurposed into something else. To give you some orientation, the long white box is the city building we're in now. As you look down at the bottom picture, it is that top right picture, but now incorporating some of those placemaking efforts. So you'll see the pedestrian-friendly walkways. It starts to bring communal areas into focus. And so that's how that sort of rendering starts to be looked at in sort of a three-phased approach. This is why you see the three different circles. These four pictures are different elevations and orientations of that last picture you just saw. To give you an example, top left, where you see those green stacks, those were proposed apartments that would be put up in stacks as they were filled and as people moved to the downtown area. The long white box, again, city building, and the CSO basin, just to give you an example, this is probably the best rendering, is that park-like setting to go on top of the CSO basin. Again, just an example. Sometimes people like pictures to give you a visual reference. This is as it currently is today, looking down. Nothing changed on this. So if you were to look at all the pictures beside each other, which you can do out in the hallway, you can see the different ways someone can be a developer or developers can be creative with creating that placemaking experience. Let's talk about present. Where are we now? So again, lots of great responses. Let's talk about what we've done at this point. We've had the Central Avenue corridor, about a half-mile of reconstruction, beautiful landscaping and beautification efforts, lighting, benches, street markings, sidewalks, crosswalks, and part of that effort was to rehabilitate the combined sewer overflow system. So with that actually takes us right into the CSO basin, combined sewer overflow, CSO. That's approximately 2.5 acres in size. It will hold about 5.1 million gallons of combined sewer overflow. That is expected to be completed at the end of this year. The park-like setting is expected to be completed at the end of next year. That's important for developers because that park-like setting now becomes incorporated into the placemaking experience. It provides those community areas. Of course, we have our DORA, designated outdoor refreshment area. By the way, we were the first in the state to have a DORA. Yay us. It was expanded in 2020. There's been conversations about expanding it further. And then the current boundaries right now for the area are basically your Clark Street to the riverfront area. There's about 17 establishments that are designated to be those DORA establishments within those boundaries. EV charging. This is another effort we recently took on. While there are several EV charging locations designated or identified throughout the city, there's 2 areas that are specific to this project. That total project was just under $1.5 million, 100% funded by an OKI grant. So the 2 areas that are pertinent to this area, or to this project, is a downtown parking lot behind the Triple Moon. It currently has the capacity to offer 2 of the DC fast charging stations. The other location is here at the Middletown City Building, about 5 different charging stations that are level 2 in our south lot. Installation of those will begin next year. And then one of the elephants in the room, vacant property legislation. We have a vacant property legislation. Again, our track record has not been very good at enforcing it. So guess what? Staff is working with our legal team and they're looking at our sister city counterparts, such as Lebanon, Hamilton, Cincinnati, Dayton, Senate Committee, which is meeting again tomorrow for our third time, and state requirements. How can we align with what they are doing? We have to practice what we preach, right? If we are going to make sure properties are maintained, that includes ours too. So we got to start working with the vacant property first. All right, let me make sure I didn't forget to tell you anything on that. All right. Let's look at our incentive districts. Again, lots of opportunity with this downtown refresh. We currently have 3 of the incentive districts within the boundaries of this project. Up here in the top right, your yellow is your CRA district, Community Reinvestment Area. Your blue is your DORA area, and your green is your entertainment district. So your establishments that serve beer, wine, liquor, maybe they're more entertainment in nature, that's an entertainment district. This also gives us opportunity for what they call a SID, a Special Improvement District. That has been mentioned in the past by folks. That is a district where the property owners within that district choose to put money into a fund, and they choose what those funds are used for. It may be additional police, it may be additional garbage pickup. They get to designate what that's for, but they put money into the fund. The red boundary here, this is the boundary of your downtown refresh project. So you're basically looking at Railroad to River, and you're looking at Reinhardt's to First. That's the boundary for this project. City-owned property. City-owned property, exempt property, and vacant property. We gotta practice what we preach. What this tells me when I look at this, and I see all the designated areas that are either city, vacant, or exempt, is that that is a lot of unused, undeveloped area that invites homeless, it invites crime, it looks like blight, but it is also opportunities for us to redevelop, create the placemaking. Speaking of elephants in the room, let's talk about a few. We've got the Swallens lot, also known as where Holiday Hoopla is. That's a wonderful lot for redevelopment. We've got our Bicentennial Commons and AK Pavilion down to, redevelop that river frontage, make it more pedestrian and family friendly. Got the Manchester. We've got Snyder Building, First National Bank, and of course the CSO Basin. Now there's other areas and lots within this boundary for this project, but these are the big ones. These are the ones we talk about. These are the ones we hear about. 3 of these are of immediate concern for council, right? So we are working with council and then subsequently the developers to figure out what is the structural integrity, how could these be repurposed, if they can be repurposed. We'll do that through an RFQ process. Now, there's an RFQ, request for qualifications, and an RFP, a request for proposal. Request for proposal typically runs along the lines of lowest bidder. Request for qualifications allows developers to provide more creative options, to allow us more things to consider, to try to incorporate more of those things that you all have suggested. We could still go to an RFP after an RFQ, but based on what we have gathered from the public, it looks like right now an RFQ would be a better process to be able to incorporate more of what you all have provided. Now let's talk about where we're going to go in the future. When we did the public survey, there were 8 sort of categories, if you will, that we asked for your input. Those 8 categories are what make the placemaking experience. It's everything from your shopping, your restaurants, your your bike paths and your walking paths and your entertainment and residential. All those categories are what's necessary to create placemaking that make people want to come, work, live, shop, and visit in an area. So we have to be able to fulfill all those categories. This is just a sampling of the input we got from the public. These are real answers. So when we said, give us your suggestions, when I said we got a lot of great suggestions, we did. I'm not going to read all these to you. You can read them. But I am going to ask you, for instance, if I just look at one that jumps out at me, family restaurants. That one jumps out at me. Tina, if you had to pick one from this list, which would you pick? Apartments. Which one would you pick? I like that one, ice cream shop. Jennifer, which one would you pick? Pickleball, I like that. Someone from over here. Movie theater, you were gonna say one? Music stores. These are all great suggestions and all very necessary for what we're doing. Okay. We also asked you, where do you go for inspiration? Where do you go to shop to get certain things that you need? Now, I'm a Carolina Gamecock, so I'm going to pick out Charleston, South Carolina on that one. But these are your answers. And it ranges anywhere from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee to Tucson, Arizona to as close as Lebanon. So when you go to get your inspiration or you go shopping or you go to enjoy things, we've got a wide range to choose from, to emulate, to bring in the best of those places. What are the benefits of a downtown refresh? Obviously, there's a lot, and you all provided a lot. I'm not going to read these to you, but we're going to do this again. I'm going to pick out one. Relocate homeless. Doing a downtown refresh allows us an opportunity to relocate the homeless. How about you? Well, which one jumps out at you for a benefit? Relocate. Okay, we're same page. I didn't pay him for that either. Okay, who else? Give me another one. Less sketchy vibe. I love that one. That's a real answer. Less sketchy vibe. Mary, are you claiming that one? Oh. There you go. Promote history. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing up here that doesn't apply. And you know what? We're getting ready to get more. And that's what John's going to do for us, and that's what we're going to ask you to do on the boards outside. So, with that, I am going to turn it over to our professional facilitator, John Foran. He is the executive director at the Menard Family Center for Democracy at Miami University. So a special thanks to Miami University for collaborating with us on this. And I'm going to let you take it away, John. You've got a lapel mic, so I'll shut up.
All right, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks.
Yep.
Do we need the mics? Are we doing?
Yep, I'm going to get those out.
All right, yeah, good afternoon. So, yeah, basically my role here for the next 15 to 20 minutes, or we'll see how this goes, is to invite you basically to engage in a conversation, essentially. So we've just seen a lot of information about sort of where the city's been, where it currently is, and so we're going to focus a little more on the future and what you think the future ought to look like here. And so some of this will overlap with the survey, and we'll just kind of see how it goes ultimately. So to keep things organized here, well, first of all, let me say we have 2 mics. So I'm sorry? We have 3. That's even better than 2. So just going to ask you to start talking here in a little bit, but if you have something to say, please just raise your hand and we'll run a mic over ultimately. And we have folks here from the city who will be taking notes on your feedback, and essentially what we're looking for is just a community conversation. So to get that sort of rolling here a little bit, let me just ask you, sort of start on a note with the present and just see what people have to say. When you think about Middletown now, if you're thinking about the future, think first about the present, I suppose. When you think about Middletown now, what do you see as the essential parts of downtown Hamilton, the other place, Middletown, that are essential to its identity or essential to keeping, the things you absolutely don't want to see leaving as a part of any refresh? Let me just ask, any thoughts there? Yeah.
Our historic building.
Do you have historic buildings, like specific ones in
Right.
mind? Or? Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask why those are important? Great. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to reinforce what Sue just said. It's the historic context, right? Because otherwise, you're Liberty Center, you're Mason, you're Westchester, right? You don't go to those places looking for a different experience. You go to those places to just to like pop in, pop out, but you don't want to spend a lot of time there, right? So it has to be a unique sense of place, which I think is what Alicia was saying. And the historic part of Middletown makes it a unique sense of place. The buildings plus the history.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I've worked in Middletown for 20 years, and I moved here about 2 years ago. And I did not know that we were the first store district. I did not know until I got here the history of the Sorg and the families downtown. You know, other things, the banks that are, the buildings that are here, the Erie Canal. I mean, the canal here is huge, and we've got that coming up next year as a 200-year opportunity to celebrate that anniversary and call attention to what's here that's really interesting and special and historic and brings people from far away. And I kind of think that when I go downtown, that's what I get really excited about.
So, I mean, one of the themes here clearly is history as place.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Others?
I would just say that when it comes to placemaking, the entire Central Avenue corridor is your placemaking point. And in fact, when we looked at the maps, what you saw is Central Avenue and Broad literally being the center of downtown. And so the character of all those buildings, along with the Manchester and the other places, are the things that really, that's the fabric of this downtown. And that's what the attraction is, that's what the potential is. And those are the elements that need to be preserved.
All right, thank you. Others?
Not to belabor the history point, but if I didn't speak up about history, I'd probably be kicked out of town. That is the unique part of any community that's as old as Middletown. And it's something that has been in place for all these years. Go up to Austin Landing or down to Liberty Center or Westchester. They did not have that. They do not have that history. They are building their history, but we have 200 years of history here. And so that's just one theme, though, that could run through any kind of development. It's not the main theme, but it's something that could be the glue that ties all the rest of it together. I believe in new buildings and new construction and so forth, but not at the expense of the things that are here already as placeholders. Thank you.
And can I just add, just because this is fun and people won't know it, but the you may remember this because you are in the film, but a Miami student a couple years ago did a documentary on the renovation of the Sorg Opera House. And I don't know if you remember that, but you spoke with him. But that documentary was actually shown at a Cleveland Film Festival last weekend. And people loved it. So that's kind of cool. Nothing to do with anything. It's just kind of cool. So, but yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I am not a Middletown resident. I've lived here for 12 years. I mean, I am now, but I'm not from here. I come from a town very similar called Parkersburg, West Virginia. Yes. Hey, amen. All right. I knew you were good people.
All right.
So our church just moved downtown in the end of spring last year. We're getting involved, and I see a lot of things about housing on this survey and including things, and we're going to build luxury housing or reuse, but then no one wants to really, other than say relocate, address the homeless population and how to actually help them if they want that help rather than just pushing them out of the way to make more money. So what maybe some of these old historical buildings, what better way to honor the past than to use them in a helpful way for the brighter future that we promise our citizens? That's the thought.
I agree pretty much exactly with what you just said. I'm not from Middletown. I'm from Lima, Ohio originally, and it's a very similar story to Middletown, right? Manufacturing kind of came and went. I moved here about 2 years ago. The buildings downtown are really cool. The Opera House, even coming in downtown from Central Avenue, the old, I think it's a gift shop now maybe. I don't really know what it gets used for, but it looks like it was an old train depot maybe. Yeah. Yeah, all that stuff's really cool, right? So how can we keep the past and then still build on the future we all want for our community and for ourselves and our kids, right? So that's what I have to say. I don't know the answer. I'm here to find out.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion of the history of the town, that kind of thing, and also it's interesting that this will touch on a different part of the survey you've done, but a lot of references to Lima, Parkersburg, Liberty Center. Are there, in contrast to Middletown, so do certain places come to mind for people here in the room who are thinking about other places of like, that's what we want to be, rather than maybe that's not what that's what we don't want to be. We don't want to be Liberty Center. Something like that. Does that make sense as a question?
Hamilton.
Hamilton?
We want to be Hamilton, but better.
Hamilton, but better?
Better than Hamilton.
Can you explain that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't want to be Hamilton. We have to have a unique sense of place. So we actually have more history, canal history. They don't have an opera house. So it's like an exercise in what do we have that they don't have that makes us a destination. So we can't just be Hamilton because people just go to Hamilton. We have to be something uniquely Middletown that they can't find in surrounding communities.
Can I ask, follow-up question. Can I ask, is there what comes to mind when you think of Hamilton as compared to Middletown?
I think of repurposed historical buildings. I think that they have an advantage because they're a county seat and we're not. I think, this is where my friends and we go down to Hamilton and we spend a whole day. And we can downtown because they have all kinds of activities, right, in addition to entertainment and bars and restaurants and shopping, in a dense corridor. Here, you have to walk quite a ways from one area of economic development to another area of economic development, which poses challenges. In the meantime, in between, you've got areas of blight or vacant buildings kind of linking the two. So you don't get that sense of vibrancy, even though we have, amazing boutiques, art, installations. That's something that we have too, again, that Hamilton doesn't necessarily have, is current art with the Art Central Foundation, Middletown Art Center, Pendleton Art Center. So, how do we build on what we uniquely have to make us a unique destination? So people choose to come here instead of Hamilton or Lebanon or Miamisburg.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead and then we'll come back. How's that sound?
Sure.
Me? Okay. Yeah, sorry, my point wasn't to dog on Lima or Wapakoneta or any of those cities. That's kind of the way I think maybe you took it, but like those cities have done, like you said, unique things, like Wapak and the anniversary of the moon landing, right? We have the 250th anniversary of the country founding coming up next year. I think there are unique opportunities for Middletown to build on what it has been, what it could be in the future, where we've came from, where we're going. This country is going through a weird change, and I don't know enough about any of that. I've come to like 3 city council meetings, so that's about as much as I know about politics. But we have a unique opportunity to change the direction that we've been on and to revitalize this community similar to those other towns have done. Like I think Wapak and Lima have done fantastic jobs of capitalizing on the namesakes of their towns and how Neil Armstrong, for example, was a big part of that Air and Space Museum that's in Wapak, and they revitalized their downtown area with similar efforts to I think what like Downtown Middletown Inc. and other organizations like that attempt to do here as well. But I just wanted to, I wasn't dogging on Lima or any of those other cities. I think they all have their unique story, but we can't ignore that manufacturing for most of this country has come and gone. Drugs have come in, wiped entire generations out, and it's been tough for a lot of people and a lot of community. I'm sure this one as well. Didn't come from here, but.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Lisa, from the owner of Iron Rose Mercantile downtown on Central. Most of the feedback I'm getting from my customers is they want more, as in shopping. So they come to shop and they're like, where else can I go? So I refer to Monarch and I refer to the Pendleton, but they want more boutiques, more shopping and drinking, things like that, just to give you feedback from what customers are for. A lot of them are coming from Hamilton and Lebanon because they know their shopping districts there. But I advertise a lot, 3 times a day. So they see me and they're thinking we have that district because how much we advertise, and then they're a little disappointed when they find out there's not much.
Okay, great. Again, I'm going to kind of drill down on that in a second.
Okay.
Did somebody else? Oh, thank you.
Hi, yeah, I'm also not, I don't live in Middletown. I represent The Gathering. We're an organization downtown that is a support for the underserved community, the unhoused population. And I think what you guys are doing here is awesome. I love the idea of revitalizing. And I think that a lot of us came tonight to see how we could support that, because I don't know that it would be a relocation of the unhoused population. There are a lot of homeless folks here in Middletown. There are kind of 2 unique kind of experiences happening here. There's this revitalization. There's coming to your guys' businesses and drawing the tourists here. That's totally a needed thing. And then there's also, how do we support this whole other group of people that we have in our downtown? When you ask the question, what do you love about Middletown? My answer is the resources that are here. I've never seen a community take care of the unhoused population like this one does. I don't know if I think everyone in here probably knows about the Shalom program, but Middletown is the only place in the surrounding area that actually takes those unhoused people and gives them a home during the coldest times in the winter. So the churches actually come together and house them for about 2 months, which is awesome. So I hope that going forward we can help you to figure out how do we address some of those issues and fill those gaps for these people, so that kind of both needs are being met and Middletown gets to move forward, kind of filling both of those community essentials.
Can I ask, can I put you on the spot and
Yeah.
feel free to say
Totally.
What advice would you have? So we have city leaders here
Yeah.
listening essentially. What advice would you have to them to make sure that those voices, the voices of the broader community here are heard in this process, which
Yeah.
will be an ongoing process?
Yeah, there are a few of us, actually. Scott maybe can answer this question better than I. We're actually forming a coalition, a homelessness coalition in Middletown, to try to address more than just the Band-Aid of we don't want to just give people meals and give people help. Like, we want to provide case management and figure out, like, what is it that is preventing you from getting a job? How can we help you get into permanent housing? So we are hoping to be able to provide those resources so that maybe there are less homeless here. But yeah, Scott.
Sorry. I agree with her. I think it's awesome what the city has done. And we, as a congregation, chose to move down here and invest in one of these old buildings and rehab it and live here and put our roots down here. And so we've been in this city for almost 100 years. So we're not going anywhere, but downtown does need some work, absolutely. But we cannot build that or revitalize that while neglecting the needs of people. And unfortunately, everyone brings their homeless people to Middletown, so you can relocate them all you want. They're just going to pop right back up. But you have an entire network of churches, nonprofits, businesses, individuals, non-government organizations, and nonprofits that are single-handedly, by the millions of dollars funding, taking care of these people. And it's because it's the right thing to do. So I would rather have a city that does the right thing first before trying to push out a population that has nowhere to go, and then it becomes just another problem. But we're all here to help. We want this downtown to succeed. We live and work here. We pay taxes here. But again, to Chelsea's point, there are two groups of people, the seen and the unseen, and we have to take care of those who want an opportunity maybe to change. We have more resources than just about any other city and county around us, so we need to tap into that. And you have more than enough volunteer army that's already trying to do that. But we want to clean it up too, but we want to do it in an ethical, humane, dignified way.
Thank you. And you have a follow-up?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, we'll come back. Okay.
All right. I think as I'm listening, and I'm with Downtown Middletown, Inc. I've been here since 2017. I don't live in the community, but I'm here pretty much every day. And the word that has come to mind is execution. That is essential. And I've seen fits of starting, stopping, execution. The development community is not coming here. I don't care what kind of plans we set or lay out. If we're not capable of executing, that development environment will not come here. And so if there's anything, it's not written in any of that, but that is the total responsibility, and federal dollars, state dollars, monies coming from private foundations, they all first look to see what is the local government doing. And if the local government seems to be incapable of executing, then we have a problem. We cannot move forward.
I think that's what more success. And that Josh Smith, who was the
Go ahead.
he was the city. I'm sorry to jump in. I know that Josh Smith was a big driver for Hamilton over there, and now he's moved on to a position in Butler County. And I know that he's offered help to the city of Middletown, but maybe to get some of those developers in, they know he's a problem solver, and he's had success, and he drives success. So if we've got some resources that we can draw on that can get some success finally moving in Middletown, I think that's the key, and what Jeff was saying is exactly right. Developers won't come here because they've been coming here for 15, 20 years after one iteration of this after another, and it's always, not been a success. So we need to change that dynamic in a huge way.
I don't disagree with anything Jeff has said all this. I'm going to circle back, though, to this conversation when you asked what would you have us tell city leaders? And I've worked at the university for 20 years. I've seen students come through from Middletown High School and succeed and go on and do things. There's a young man named Hunter right now who's working with you, and he's an amazing young person. I've also seen Miami pull out of Middletown in the last few years and did a presentation at ARCO last year that sort of looked at the history of why that was happening. But one of the things that we've got as a resource is not only the first DORA district in the state of Ohio, it's the first regional campus in the state of Ohio, is the Middletown Miami campus. And for whatever reason, that relationship between a really good university and the students that come from Middletown and want to go to a university that has that reputation and that ability to turn students into great citizen leaders, I don't feel like that connection is as strong as it has been in the years past, and I don't exactly know why. But I think that the city, when thinking about the social problems that face this area in this city, I can name 20 students over there that are juniors and seniors in degree programs who want to solve some of these problems and learn by doing it, and they're doing it in Hamilton. And whatever needs to be done to reconnect this city to the university that started the first regional campus in the state of Ohio right here could do really good things for this city, because there are young people here who really want to contribute. And right now, currently, as you know, most of them are finishing their degrees on the Hamilton campus. And so they're not coming, they're having to think very consciously to come back to Middletown. And that's something that I've seen that really does need addressed, and I don't know who to address it with. So.
Well, that got a lot of response, it looks like.
So, point of clarity, Steve West, Vice Mayor here in Middletown. To piggyback what Mr. Whitman was saying before, you know, we can look at what Hamilton did. Hamilton's had a lot of success. Some people say it could be because of the county seat. But when we look at how quickly they turned around their downtown, they were aggressive deals, and each deal was unique. Whether it's repurposing a historic building, whether the city had to acquire that property or it was privately held at first, who had to hold the grants, so on and so forth. But Mr. Whitman raised a good point, and so Joshua Smith has moved into a connection with Butler County Finance Authority.
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, so Joshua Smith moved into a county position with Butler County Finance Authority. We have working with him right now. There's no contract to bring him in, so he can spend a lot of time here.
Can I just ask specifically, do you see, in terms of prioritization of focus, I guess? Do you see sort of, if you get them downtown, then opportunities and facilities, that kind of thing expand? Do you prioritize housing downtown, or do you prioritize? All right, thanks.
Yeah, John, I just wanted to add, this is related to the conversation about Miami University, the Middletown campus. My name is Yvette Kelly Fields. I work for Miami University, and I specifically work with the Middletown campus. And to her point, there was a period of time where there was, not everybody in Middletown knew that the campus existed, but I will say we've been working with current administration here, Alicia, Jacob, the mayor, the council people, and we have built some wonderful partnerships with the city. Some of you may be aware that last year the city invested with Miami University by creating the Middletown Rising program, where students from Middletown High School will now be able to come to the Middletown campus debt-free, and that is a partnership between all of the campuses, Middletown and Hamilton, but a student can definitely start their degree at the Middletown campus, and some degrees they can do the full 4 years. So we have repaired that relationship and building that relationship, and I think you'll start to see more of that engagement happening. The pandemic took a toll on all universities, so we're starting to see a resurgence. I invite everybody to come visit the campus, come to our cafe. The Middletown Rotary is meeting there on a regular basis. We are hosting programming, so that campus is becoming alive, and the partnerships within Middletown are strengthening. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, and as a fellow Miami person, let me put you on the spot. So if you had to say then, sort of, what would you hope to see the relationship between Miami and Middletown and downtown Hamilton? What should that look like in 5 to 10 years? All right, thank you. This has been a great discussion, and it seems like I'm cutting it off prematurely, but the clock says I have to. The next one's in 10 minutes. So let me, okay, last question, and then how's that sound? Go ahead,
All
sorry.
right, dear. So my name is Jamie. I am new to the community as far as a business owner. I am the Old Central Tavern here on Central. I also bought a house in the revitalized area around the corner. I can walk to my location, which is absolutely beautiful. I come from Hamilton, in which case I bartended there for about 10 years. I have a lot of management and overall experience in the industry. I am a people person, and I love everyone. From a business standpoint, and just from new in the area, being a homeowner and business now. The homeless, it's not about relocating them or disregarding them, but also a third of them are recovering from alcohol or drugs. So it's hard to put them down in this business district where we're supposed to be door and we're supposed to be growing this alcohol and offering a safe community. We need a little bit more lights, I think, kind of creating that more savory feeling. But when I find needles on the side of my building, and I pick up every day, I don't know if anyone's seen me, I walk down Central, I pick up garbage, and it's not just in front of my place, it's for the whole community, because we should have community pride. And if we all do our part, it really just will come along. And what I will also say about the businesses is it being consistent, going on what my lovely Iron Rose said. If we're gonna say that we're gonna be open, we should be open, because when we get that business down here, we have to capture it, because it's 10 times harder to get them back. I know I'm trembling, I don't speak in front of people. The sewage smell is also a thing. If we're offering food and stuff, it's hard for them to sit out there, and I know it's not an easy product, and money doesn't come easily, so we do have to figure out, though, because when we get people down there in the warmer months, and that smell is really deterring. I would like to see a little enforcement for the homeless. It's not disregarding, but I mean, if we're held to a standard, everybody should be held to a standard. And when it's affecting the business, it's not fair to us, and it's not being heartless for them. I mean, if anything, it kind of seems heartless for us, because as a business, most of us are just people. I live day to day, and I work very hard for everything I have. So, I think it's fair that as a community we grow together when we figure out those problems and we get a game plan and we put those SMART goals in plan and, give that love to the community, because there is no one following up on them. I encounter them a lot, and I do it very lovingly but very firmly, because at the end of the day, that's what we should do as a community, and that's the only way to grow. People don't want to come down here and have that next to them. It's just unfair. And then more trash receptacles on the things, so that we, our tumbleweeds are trash. That's what's flowing down our streets, and it's unsavory, it's not cool, and we're better than that. There's so many loving individuals that I've talked to and I've met on this strong little journey. I've only been here since October 4th. I'm trying to talk really quick. So yeah, just everyone doing their part and just being, given solutions and not just the problem is a really big thing, I think, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, last comment, thanks.
Hi, I'm Doug Greathouse. My family has been downtown since the early 1800s, so I grew up downtown, if you will. One of the things a couple of things I wanted to talk about is marketing. And one of the biggest problems you have is you've got to get the word out, not to just the people in Middletown, but to outside of Middletown. We need to do a lot to develop this is a destination place, and to get the word out that there's a lot. I talk to people all the time who say Middletown is a dead ghost town. It's been dead for 40 years. What are you talking about? There's nobody there, because they don't know. We're not doing a good job of getting the word out. Another thing that we have is a huge problem is coming up is this potential town mall development and this Renaissance Point development. Do you know anything about that? When those two things hit, there's going to be a massive inflow of marketing money going into promoting those things. We will get blown off the map for a decade if we don't get in front of that. We have an opportunity, we have an urgency to promote and market and develop a marketing program in front of those. We've got a year or two, and if we can make that count, we can make a difference. If we let that get by, it may cost us millions of dollars to get in the game with those two, because they're going to spend billions of dollars, easy. Another thing that I wanted to comment about is that the starting point of growth for any type of a project like this is Friday night. What you have to do is you have to get every business downtown open on Friday nights, like clockwork year-round. When people come in, they want to see open buildings. They want to see people walking around and doing stuff. You come down through here on any Friday night, and you see the bars and the restaurants are open, and nobody else is. Most of Central Avenue is dead. We've got to get the idea out to everybody, all the downtown merchants, I don't care who they are, the importance of starting to develop that Friday night business. Once you develop Friday night, then you can grow into Saturday night, and then you can get Saturday day business, and then you can get Sunday afternoon business, then you can build Thursday business. But it all builds out from getting a healthy Friday night going. And you can be open all day long, but where most of our customers are during the day, they're at work. So you can't get that, you can't achieve success that way. You got to get that Friday night foundation going. And that's my point.
All right. Thank you. And thank you all. We are out of time, although if you want to stay for part 2 of this, it starts in 4 minutes. So thank you very much. This has been an enjoyable conversation. I hope it continues. The department, whatever. Did you want to say anything to wrap up, or did you want to say anything to wrap up?
We will have staff out by the picture boards so you can engage more. Welcome to stay for round 2. And we will end round 2 at 6:55 to make sure everybody's out so that council can come in for their session. Thank you.
Turn this thing off.
Have a seat. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I see some new faces, so welcome. I see some familiar faces. Welcome. All right, everybody got a seat? Okay. For those of you that were here before for the first session, this is going to sound exactly familiar. So you know the story. You know how the story ends. All right. My name is Lisha Moreland. I'm the director of the Community and Economic Development Department for the City of Middletown. I want to thank you all for being here. This is our Downtown Refresh Town Hall, and we have gotten a lot of responses, wonderful responses to our community survey, and this is our effort to bring in more of the responses from the public before we, do I need to speak louder? Okay. I never know if it's going to be too loud. So this is our efforts to bring in more public response before we embark on this downtown refresh. One of the challenges that we've had in the past, and we're going to talk about past, present, future, is that we just simply have not gotten traction with our downtown efforts. And that is one of the main reasons why we're inviting the public to engage with us on this. So when we look at the comprehensive plan, our downtown comprehensive plan that was adopted in June of 17, we took a look at what is that boundary, what's that area look like, what do we need to be considering for repurpose and redevelopment. One of the things that I'll share with you as you look at this map, yes, I had too much coffee. By color, you can identify your historic commercial core, transition areas, civic area, riverfront, recreation, and residential areas. and you can get up close and personal with these on the picture boards in the hallway. So as we start to go through this presentation this evening, we will stop at 7 o'clock. We have a hard stop. City Council is having a special executive session at 7:30, so we've got to make sure the room is cleared for their meeting. But we invite you to continue to engage with staff at the picture boards in the hallway. We can certainly gather more information from you, and there are a hard copy of the surveys. If you have not filled one out, I invite you to do so, and they're on the table in the hallway. You can also put in the bin your completed survey. As we go through this process, there may be potential committees for this project. If you are interested in being on a committee, I invite you to sign up on the sign-up sheet with your contact information. Just housekeeping, vending machines, bathrooms at the end of the hallway. Feel free if you need it, okay? When I get done with the presentation, I will then hand it off to our professional facilitator who will gather more of your information, and then staff will go back and consolidate all of those questions and curiosities, and we will publish and address the answers to those within the coming weeks. So stay tuned on that. Alrighty. In the past, as we have worked with developers, one of them at the end of last year disengaged with us because of their own financial reprioritization. Having said that, as we were working with them, they provided some concept renderings. These are only to give you an idea of what could be. This is not something we are doing. It's not set in stone. These have already been presented to previous council regimes for consideration. This is just to give you a visual reference of how things could be repurposed and redeveloped. So to give you an idea, the top left, where the green buildings are, is exactly how it stands today, the downtown area. Let me show you right here. This is our city building where we are. This is our CSO basin, otherwise known as the big hole across the street. And then if you look to the right, that is the current area where we have currently standing buildings, but those buildings or those lots have been repurposed, redeveloped in some way. For reference, here's our city building. Here's the CSO basin. If you look down at the bottom picture, that is your top right, but now incorporating more pedestrian-friendly areas, more communal areas. And they were looking at the 3 big round circles as a phased approach. So how do they provide a repurposing, redevelopment for more pedestrian-friendly, family-friendly areas? That picture is now in 4 different orientations, elevations. So same thing, but if you look at the green stacks, those are apartments that would be added as more people move to the area. As well, to give you another sort of orientation of reference, this park-like setting is the proposed park-like setting to go on top of the CSO basin, which I'll talk about that in a second. Same picture, just now more of a town square concept. So when you look at these pictures out in the hallway, you can see them all together, and you can see how it is today versus how it could be with current structures, repurposing some structures, redeveloping some of those areas, and whatnot. This is as it is today, looking from the clouds. So you're looking down, here's our city building, CSO basin, and then, you know, to the rest of the area that, as it currently exists. All right, so let's talk about where we are presently. Well, Central Avenue corridor. We did a half-mile segment of Central Avenue to redevelop it, repurpose it, beautify it, lighting, benches, crosswalks, redesigning the on-street parking. And part of that project was also to rehabilitate the combined storms. It's late, hold on, tongue-tied. Combined sewer storm water system, which leads to the CSO basin, combined sewer overflow. It's about 2.5 acres in size, will hold just a little over 5 million gallons of the combined sewer overflow, and that CSO basin completion is targeted for the end of this year. The park-like setting is targeted for the end of next year. We also have a DORA district, designated outdoor refreshment area. We were the first city in the state to have a designated DORA area. We have about 17 licensed establishments within those boundaries, and it currently runs from Clark Street to the riverfront. It was expanded in 2020, and there has been conversation about potentially or expanding it some more. EV charging, that's another project we've recently undertaken. EV charging infrastructure. So that project total is just under $1.5 million, but 100% funded by an OKI grant. While we have several locations throughout the city that were identified for those charging stations, there are 2 locations that are pertinent to this project. One of them is the downtown parking lot, right behind the Triple Moon, that has the capacity for 2 DC fast charging stations. The second location was here at the city building. About 5 of those would be level 2 charging stations in the south lot. And then, of course, vacant property legislation. Talk about an elephant in the room. That's vacant property legislation. We do have it. But historically, we have not done a good job at enforcing it, updating it, following it, or making sure others follow it. Let's just be honest. We've not done a good job. But that's where this changes. Staff is currently working with our legal team and looking at what our other municipalities around us, like Lebanon, Hamilton, Dayton, Cincinnati, the Senate committees, which is meeting again tomorrow for the 3rd time, and state requirements, to make sure that what the language that we take to city management and city council aligns with all of them, and then the proposal to be reinforced. Okay, part of this downtown refresh provides us a ton of opportunities. So when we look at our incentive districts, top right, the yellow area is our CRA, the community reinvestment area. The blue is the DORA district, which I just explained to you, and the green is our entertainment district. So think of those businesses that sell beer, wine, liquor, are more entertainment in nature. They would be within an entertainment district. There's also been discussion about a potential SID, Special Improvement District, and that is where the property owners within that district will put money into a fund to be used for things like additional police protection, more trash pickup, whatever they would designate it for. Those property owners put that fund together. This red boundary is the proposed boundary for our downtown refresh. So it basically runs Railroad to the river, and then of course Reinhardt's to First. So when we look at city-owned property, we have city-owned property, we have exempt property, and then of course vacant properties. We gotta practice what we preach, right? If we expect other properties to be cleaned up and maintained, we have to do the same. So what I see when I look at this slide, all the colored areas of all the city-owned vacant and exempt properties within this boundary, there's a lot of opportunity to attract more homeless, for crime, for continued blight. What this also tells me is there's a ton of opportunity for repurposing, redeveloping, and enforcing vacant property legislation. This also is an opportunity to create placemaking in that downtown boundary. Placemaking is what is critical to bringing folks to this area to live, work, play, visit. Now, the golden rule of economic development is highest and best use of the property. So with all of the input that we've received from the city or from the public, there's a ton of suggestions that allows us to create the placemaking to have highest and best use of the area. So it was very pleasing to see all of that. Again, let's revisit elephants in the room. Swallen's Lot, otherwise known as Ware Holiday Hoopla, wonderful lot for redevelopment. Bicentennial Commons and AK Pavilion, that helps to incorporate the river frontage and the use of river frontage. You know, we have our sister cities up and down the river that are doing it. We have the most challenging river frontage to redevelop, but we can do that. Manchester Inn, Snyder, First National, your historic buildings. What do we do? How do we repurpose those? What's the structural integrity to be able to accommodate that? And that's what we're looking for the developers to be able to tell us. Here's what you can do. Here's what you shouldn't do. Here's what is not recommended. Here's where the safety concerns are. So being able to get that information, but also hear from the public what they want, how do we combine those together? And then, of course, our CSO basin. So I talk about the request or the RFQ process. And Mary had asked me this a second ago. Request for qualifications versus request for proposal. Request for qualifications based on what we're seeing from the public provides us the best opportunity to incorporate the creative options and all the suggestions that we're getting. Well, okay, maybe not all, but a majority of the suggestions that we're getting. We could also then go to an RFP, request for proposal. Typically, an RFP is handled lowest bidder, but that does not allow us the opportunity to look at the creative options and incorporate more of the suggestions we're getting from the public. We could still go from RFQ to RFP, but I would rather try to incorporate as much of the suggestions as that we can. So let's go to where are we going in the future? This was one of the reasons that we're having a town hall to engage with the public. It's one of the reasons we have a public survey, and that public survey is 8 categories. We asked you for feedback when it came to restaurants, shopping, public art, entertainment, family activities, residential, walking, and bike paths. Those are the 8 pillars needed to create placemaking. So with that, we said, what are your suggestions? We want to hear from you. These are actual answers that we're getting. This is just a sampling. We're still getting information in. So for instance, I might pick children's museums. That one jumps out at me. Mika, which one would jump out at you? Dog park, okay. Mary, which one jumps out at you? More restaurants and dining, okay. Mr. Ashworth, which one jumps out at you? Historic tourism. How about one of you ladies? Outdoor dining, okay. One of you 2 ladies? Arcade game complex. So lots and lots of great suggestions all help with the placemaking and all potential possibilities if we're leaving it open to an RFQ to see what could a developer provide us options for. Then we also asked the public, where do you go for inspiration? Where do you get your ideas, and where do you go to shop for certain things? Now, being a Carolina girl, University of South Carolina, I'm gonna pick Charleston, South Carolina, but we had answers as far away as Tucson, Arizona, Pigeon Forge, and as close as Lebanon. We also asked, what are the benefits of doing a downtown refresh, right? We haven't gotten traction. As Jeff mentioned, we got to execute. That's not been done. What are the benefits if we do that? I'm not going to read these to you. This is a sampling of real answers that we've gotten. So I might say, well, what can we do to transform the city image, the stigma? I think that would be a huge benefit for a downtown refresh, or with a downtown refresh. Tell me somebody who hasn't answered one already. Safe, clean space. I saw sketchy vibe. So that was a real answer. Less sketchy vibe. Maybe not a good vibe, just less sketchy. I love that one. I saw a hand over here. Yes. People who spend more money for sure. Did you have your hand up late? No? Okay. You got to answer. She answers, so you got to answer. Yes, yes, more local activity. So see, there's a plethora of benefits to doing this downtown refresh, and why wouldn't we? So we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue to ask you, share more information, share more thoughts and curiosities. And what we'll do, staff will gather this, and we will put together the answers or additional explanation and publish that in the next couple weeks. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our professional facilitator, John Foran. He is the executive director of the Menard Family Center for Democracy at Miami University. So a special thanks to Miami University for collaborating with us on this. John, take it away. Okay, perfect. Sorry, it's sweaty.
All right, good evening. So, yeah, first of all, as she just said, I run the Miami University's essentially a civic engagement center. So, just putting that hat on for a minute, it's awesome to see people showing up on a weekday night when the weather's beautiful to sort of participate in good old-fashioned grassroots democracy. So, like, yay for that. But more to the point, basically, it looks like we have a mix of people who are here for the first session and for the second session. So the point of the remaining time here is we were basically just going to open up the conversation and hear your feedback, your thoughts, your aspirations about the future of the downtown Middletown area. And I have a list of questions, and I can go to that as necessary. But since I unceremoniously cut off the discussion because it was time last time, for folks who were here in the first hour, I just want to give people an opportunity. Was there anything anybody wanted to say or talk about that my militant timing side came out and prevented? Yeah, do we have microphones floating around? Okay, yeah, thank you.
One of the things that I didn't necessarily see it, but we have a number of buildings along Central Avenue that are smaller. They have, 4 to 6 units on the upper levels, and along with vacant storefronts. And these, I think, are great opportunities for fast, quick revitalization. They're smaller size of a project. Many of them are owned, just by different folks. So, and these are the kinds of things that, with the right, would be attractive to developers wanting to do some things.
All right, thank you, sir. Let me ask you a follow-up, actually. So you're talking specifically about city incentives or state incentives, that kind of thing. Would you want to see the city prioritize those sorts of steps?
Right. Yeah. And the key is to come up with particularly residential units that have high-end finishes. I'm not talking about a $300 a month type of apartment. I'm talking, $1,200, $1,000, something that is going to attract younger people, professionals, folks who will come, spend money, invite their friends, and hang out.
All right, thank you. We have a couple folks.
So sort of building on from previous conversation, so a bunch of us from Downtown Middletown Inc., because that's our mission, downtown revitalization, but we're part of Main Street America and Heritage Ohio. So one of the things that we've been doing is looking at case studies of communities and communities about similar sizes and so on. And one of the things that we've seen from a downtown revitalization point of view is a public-private partnership. So if you look at 3CDC, of course we don't have billions like Cincinnati, but in the meantime, Hamilton Hub has done something like that. And their approach is block by block. So how can we integrate that in Middletown? We have employers, right? We've got large businesses here. How can we create that public-private partnership where people feel ownership so that we get the capital that we need, right? So that we can have some wins. Because I think, I've lived here for 34 years, and it was really sketchy downtown for a long time. We never went downtown. And then we saw this renaissance, the people started with Beauvair Studios and on about 15 years ago. And since then, ever since COVID and the reconstruction with the beautiful streetscape that we have, we've just stalled. Like, I don't know of a building in the last, and I'm making numbers up here, but like, say the last 5 years that's been revitalized, repurposed. And then the other headwind that we have now, there are certain absentee landlords that own a sizable chunk of downtown, and they just let those buildings sit. So like an SID, if you have to have the building owners, agree on this, like, I don't see how that's going to happen when they're just completely uninvolved with buildings falling to rack and ruin. And I think some of the city buildings, too, have not been secured. So we have historic buildings owned by the city that are falling into rack and ruin. So we have just got to stop the deterioration, and then we have got to get this kick started, right? Whether it's like a Hamilton Hub thing, something. We have to have some kind of partnership that's going to revitalize buildings again, because we have it. Thank you.
Would you ask, I guess if you were, which you are, if you're talking to city officials, would you want them to take the lead on that? Would you want the private sector to take, like, how does... And would you say that to the business community or to the city government or both? Or so would you, using Sandusky, would you want Middletown to look, would you see Sandusky as a model to be followed? Do we have, because this is being recorded, do we have mics? Oh, you have the mic. Therefore, you are next.
I have the mic. Hey, I was here last meeting, so sorry I'm going to talk again. But I'm Scott. I'm the minister at Cross Point Church of Christ down across from the library. Just moved in there in June. I love downtown Middletown. I see people like my dear friend Mika over here who owns the Windermere doing incredibly ingenuitive things with her business. I see other business owners, the owners of Foodies, Triple Moon, doing innovative things with their business. I was talking to Councilman Lawley and West right before I came back in here, but I was a campus minister down at Cincinnati, at the University of Cincinnati, before I came here. And that was right when Over the Rhine was at its worst, but they were starting to rebuild it. And do you know how they did that? Created affordable housing for the students, made community service for the students a priority, and developed relationships. And not only did Over the Rhine become one of the great destinations of Cincinnati, they even helped the homeless people, not by relocating them or shunning them, but by providing a quality level of help for those who want it. So I think that it's doable, and I think this kind of area is rife for, like, you look like an Oxford kind of place, that model. But I mean, we have so many buildings you could turn into student living. It would be crazy to not do that. I think that's a great way to start the process, because right now, there's nobody going to buy luxury homes down there when we're having to pay a mortgage payment extra a week just to eat groceries if you're making decent money right now. So affordable housing needs to come first, or we have to find a way to zone it in which these can be all simultaneously done, accomplishing the same goal. So that's just a thought. Get the college and universities involved.
And would you like to speak on behalf of the university on that? What the university might be able to do to partner? Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, let me make the little pitch for the university. So there is a lot of social capital at the Middletown campus, at the Hamilton campus in Oxford, that just at the level of student labor, interested, engaged people, faculty who are interested in placemaking, and they do this kind of thing not only for a living, but also because they care a lot about it. And I would say, as putting my hat on as a faculty member for a minute, we don't have the connections in Middletown. I don't believe that we maybe we used to, and that we should. I'm for that. Yes, yeah, I agree. Yeah, and so I would, putting on my hat again with the Civic Center, I would be really interested in talking about that. We have lots of students who will say, yeah, that's cool, and then jump in. So enough of my editorializing, but yeah. Go ahead.
I attended the last session. I just kind of wanted to take things in before I got an opportunity to speak. There was a lot of talk about how critical it was for restoring old buildings and preserving our historic character. There's a lot of talk about preserving our history and carrying that forward. There wasn't much talk about how beautiful these buildings are, how distinctive they are, and how valuable that is for people, and how attractive that is for potential residents and people who come here to shop and consume. So that's one thing. Another thing is, I just wanted to get this out. The city has told its residents for quite a while, we're trying as hard as we can with buildings like the Manchester. No, there are just no takers. It's a dead end. We can't do it. Well, if the city succeeds in its revitalization of downtown, wouldn't the Manchester then be a valuable asset and an attractive investment opportunity for someone? Are we supposed to bet against the city's likelihood of success and just get rid of our incredible asset? That applies to the banks on the corners, First National and Getz, and a lot of the historic downtown buildings. So preserving that beauty, preserving history, having faith in our city to carry us forward to a point where we can one day get there. Maybe Manchester isn't the first step. That doesn't mean it's not a step. It could be later on in the process.
All right, thanks. Would anybody want to respond to that from the city or from just other?
Yeah, so for those that I haven't met, my name is Steve West. I'm vice mayor here in town. Couple quick points, and I kind of like where you were going with that. So the Manchester, along with a couple other properties that are city-owned, it was under a contract with Wayland, a company called Wayland, who did some of the bigger projects like Louisville Slugger Museum, just to name one. So they took, I don't know, Paul, was it a couple years, 2 or 3 years? 3 years, and they kind of came back. It could be a timing issue, right, with inflation, but they eventually came back and they said, we're just not interested. Plan A, B, C, D, E. So long story short on that, and that's with some tax abatements, things like that. Manchester, I think, is a little bit unique in a sense where that particular structure has been vacant for quite a bit of time. And there's a lot of issues on that particular property. But, you know, downtown as a whole, I think, you know, for example, you brought up Getz Tower. Excuse me. Getz Tower is privately held. We've been working with that property owner. So I've been on council for 15 months, and I've been engaged with him probably about 14 of those months. We've been working with him to get the ball rolling. There were some difficulties with startup on that. Everything from not having 2 modes of evacuation throughout that building because they only have an elevator, they don't have a staircase. That's been resolved. So we've looked at how do we do a partnership with him, and we've met multiple times. Because at Getz Tower, I think he's owned that, what, 10 years, Paul? It's been a long time. So, you know, long story short, you know, that's one of the privately held ones. We've at least met with him. We do have some other property owners here downtown that are buying up kind of rapidly. I think some of the folks from DMI have hinted at that. And that's a problem. You know, if you're not doing things with your current vacancies, why are you buying more? And I would say that to the property owner's face. I don't really care. But, you know, so that is a big issue. There are a few key buildings, I think, downtown. One that a lot of people overlook is the Cincinnati State, or formerly the Cincinnati State building. I think that one is crucial for downtown. Not only does it give the square footage, but if that could be converted into you know, apartment units, things like that, that could instantly impact and change downtown. So, and let me just put out there, you know, anybody can reach out to myself or Paul or anybody else on council. If you go to the city's website, I've got some cards on me, but if you go to the city's website, you can look up our contact info. Feel free to send me an email. We make ourselves available all the time. Grab coffee, grab lunch, to kind of talk about these ideas. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul Lally. I was the fire chief, retired, city manager, retired, and now on city council. Let me make one point of clarification. The city never, ever said no, we couldn't do the Manchester or downtown. In fact, the opposite is true. We had several different groups go through there and try to work with us on how it could be saved. And so we have done everything we can to work with groups to see if we can save it. Now, at the end of the day, that's a challenge that faces us because of its structural makeup and the amount of money it's probably going to take to redo it. That's the challenge. The big challenge with downtown is the financial resources and coming up with the financial resources. But we've had ideas here tonight. We've had some great suggestions, and I know Ashley and her staff are more than willing to work with. So if you do have, I encourage you to go to Alicia and Ashley and staff. But at the end of the day, it's going. We have done a lot to try to save, especially the Manchester Inn. Maybe we can't. I'm not going to promise you we can, because it is going to be a financial challenge.
Just for purposes of discussion, all right? So there seems to be a lot of consensus. In the last session, in this session, a lot of focus on the history of the city, a lot of focus on sort of the uniqueness of and the importance of certain buildings downtown. Just playing devil's advocate, could someone articulate why is the Manchester Inn worth saving? I'm playing college professor is what I'm doing. Yeah.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
It's probably, in my estimation, the most iconic building for downtown because of not its age. It only goes back to 1925, but because of the amount of things that have happened in that building. Not just a hotel, not just John F. Kennedy sleeping in one of the rooms, but right from the very beginning of the history of the hotel, it started to be a community building. There were, and I've got the whole history of the Manchester documented. There were meetings held right the first week that it opened, and so it was open to the community. It wasn't just a hotel; it was a community center, and so that was the nucleus of downtown for all those many years. To me, that's the important part of that particular building. There are other buildings that are just as important, but to me, that one has special significance in that the amount of community that came through that building in one sense or another for all those years.
Thank you. It's just interesting. In the survey, one of the questions was essentially, what other places do you think of that would be good models, right? And Gatlinburg, Tennessee came up as one, Pigeon Forge. Speaking for myself, I think of Pigeon Forge. I don't think historical significance. I think tourist trap, sort of, but kind of fun, Disney without Disney prices, that kind of thing. But there's a certain identity there. So what?
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just drive 20 miles up north on 75, go to the arcade, Dayton Arcade. Yeah. Closed for 30 years. Very similar issue, building too many developers playing with it and screwing it up. And the building's in a state of disrepair. But what was they brought in the right developer who knew how to do stabilize the building. And then it took the city, working with the community, almost 10 years to start to bring that building back. But if you go to Dayton now, you're going to see over nearly $100 million in development in that entire block. So it's really, like I said, getting the right developer on working with your team. And so when Lisha talked about that RFQ needs to speak to developers that know how to do those kinds of things. And on the flip side, the community has to have patience, knowing that it's not going to be a 2-year turnaround. It may take much longer. But then you have other things that can be going on within the downtown to bring about other development efforts.
Is it fair to say, though, that I'm not making this argument, I'm asking, is it fair to say, though, that the pitch that many of you are suggesting ought to be made to developers?
Well,
this is a history, this is a place rooted in its history, and we need to revitalize that history? Because what we're not hearing, and I'm not saying we should, it's just, again, it's just a conversation. There's very little sort of bulldoze it and build some new thing. This is sort of bring back what was here before in some
way. I would say it's fair to say there are probably people who would tell you if you were going to bulldoze the Manchester, they'd go and stand in front of the building to stop it, okay? I'm just saying, because I've talked to people, and that's the passion that they have. So what Sam had stated is the value of the building to the community. And what you come up with as a reuse may incorporate some of those elements, but also it will have to have other uses that make the building pay for itself.
Would anyone disagree with that, or is that sort of, yes?
I moved to Middletown 2 years ago. I don't understand a lot about the city politics and things that are going on here, okay? I've worked here for 20 years, I've lived here for 2. right in Middletown is that Sorg Theater. And that's the first thing I fell in love with when I started coming to downtown Middletown. And it was closed at the time. And I remember when they moved all the seats from Music Hall, from Cincinnati, up to the Sorg. And the Sorg, I don't think that the people are here to represent the Sorg, which is sad to me. But when we talked in the first session about that tie between city and community, and then and using money that comes from grants and things like that, and the people behind the Sorg are community members. And in the time that I've been involved in this city, they've taken that building that couldn't be gone into and have turned it into a 501(c), as I believe, and have made it into a space, and Mika's sitting over here with another space that's being used for multiple reasons. We have the model to do to the Manchester. Right here in this city, we have a model to think about, partnering with people who would stand in front of it if you were going to bulldoze it, and people who want to turn it into a place that people will come and see for historic reasons and think big. It's a big space. But we have a model right here with the Sorg to do what we're talking about doing in this room.
Just real quick, then I'll pass it to her, sorry.
We have to go over here too, and then we'll go, or go ahead, and then we'll go, yeah.
He's been waiting longer than me.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I'm tagging on to what Jeff was talking about an hour ago. But we were talking in between, and I wanted to put it on record, we were talking about, and if you want to bring people into downtown to live residentially, which is what Jeff was talking about, you'll have to look at it things very holistically in terms of saying, the people that you're going to get are people that are going to be on foot. They're going to expect restaurants. They're going to need convenience stores. They're going to need everything that you need to live. And so part of the overall plan is you have to figure out how are we going to get that, because those people are going to need restaurants 3 times a day, 7 days a week. They're going to need to think about transportation. They're going to think about every little nook and thing that they're going to have to live. You have to factor that into your design. As far as that goes. On the subject of the vacant property ordinance thing, one thing you have to be careful about, and you need to give some thought in, is that if you push the property owners too hard, their solution may be to demolish, and you could end up with a whole lot of vacant properties that are vacant lots. So you may want to think about how can we structure that so that that doesn't happen. And see if we have anything else. That'll do for now.
We can come back if it occurs to you. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yes.
So as somebody who oversaw, we just redeveloped Bethlehem Lutheran Church, which was built in 1831. We bought it from them. We were out by Atrium, had 17 acres of land, but we ended up serving the homeless people in Middletown. We're like, can't get to them here, and we're out in a cornfield. So we moved down here, right? And so you can have I think Middletown has some of the coolest architecture in the world. Like in our church, we have a miniature like almost identical to the Sorg Opera House that we want to use for the community to use. You have these old buildings, but we have filled it with future-proof technology. So that's the key. You can have these cool things, but we have state-of-the-art stuff in our building. We have biometrics. We have AI in our church building that is keeping tabs and automating processes. If you can sell it to that, you already have down here, this place was built when people built stuff well, right? So a lot of these buildings, there are some that are just falling down, but the bones of a lot of these are good. It's just keep the old. It's really cool looking. It's very unique, but it's okay to change the bones and the circulatory system on the inside to make it modern. And I think that's what we did, and it didn't even cost us $1 million. So I think it's doable to offer incentives for I guess the best word I can think of is future-proofing, like bringing technology usages and things like that. You might have a higher level of IT firms that want to come in or things like that. If you kind of say, hey, how cool is this building with this giant hollow cavity that you can run so much internet through, your mind would blow. And they'll be like, whoa, or how about this building that's been underwater twice with Middletown floods, but is still standing and has no structural problems whatsoever because it was built right. Use that to our advantage with these developers.
So your vision of Middletown downtown in 10 years or so is the sort of the landmark buildings, however you define that, are still standing and being repurposed for high tech, bring in, okay. All right, thank you. Someone else had their hand up. Oh, yes.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Hi, sorry, I'm a drummer, not a singer, so I'm not good with mics. But my name is Chris. I'm the owner of Crooked Dog Comics downtown. One of the reasons that we put our business in a year ago was the revitalization and the beautification of the downtown area. And I'm switching gears from Manchester, so sorry about that. We've had a problem as of late. Well, one side effect of the beautification of the streets was the removal of about 1/3 to 1/2, depending on the area of the street parking. We are a destination business, and there has been, actually, the other comic book shop in Miamisburg has closed down, and we were recommended to their people. So now we're bringing in people from Miamisburg for about a 30-mile radius of people coming into this area. They were having trouble with parking because there's, within 100 feet of my shop, there are 7 businesses. We have 5 parking spots for everybody. One of the business owners across the street parks his car in there every day, all day. Another one comes and parks it in for 2 or 3 hours every day. We have had squatters parking their cars there. I have driven down the streets, and you see all the snow plows around cars. Well, I mean, I would literally and watch the snow melt around the car, and there's like a ring of dirt around the car that sat there the whole 4 months. And I understand the beautification. That was part of the reason we moved downtown. And for them to meet no code enforcement whatsoever, or any 2-hour parking or anything in the streets, it's like, come down to Middletown, put your business here, we will help you out, but once you're ready to go, we're going to tie your legs together. It's a destination, and it's costing us money, and costing us money, that means it's costing your tax dollars. And we need help, some sort of signs, some sort of enforcement. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I don't know what the solution, well, I do know what the solution is to make it maximum 2-hour parking during business hours. And some way to enforce it with street signs or something, because the status quo is not working at all. And I'm asking and reaching out for help. And I'm quite surprised that actually that topic was not on that list that was up there earlier, because nobody whatsoever mentioned parking. And you bring in people from outside, because ultimately the city of Middletown is not going to increase their tax revenue just from local residents. You bring in people outside. That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I have been doing. And I need you to help me help you, help me help you. So, thanks.
All right, thank you. Because we have a hard stop in 90 seconds, I guess we'll bring it to a close at that point. I would encourage you all we have city officials here, and we literally have no more time unless it's like a 10-second thing.
Yes, no question. I just wanted to know if there was a study done about the Manchester to look at it to say, yes, keep it, don't keep it, regardless of the developers, but did the city look at it and have a study that says this is what you can get from it?
Can someone answer that?
Yeah, one last thing. We've talked a lot about history and how important that is. There's no doubt about that. There are a lot of stories to be told about Middletown, and we can do that with any number of means. But one thing we need to remember is looking back at our history. And 4 or 5 times, Middletown has gone through the same thing, the same process. In 1909, when George M. Verity was going to build a big plant, he needed to have, he was going to bring 1,000 people in here to work at the plant. They needed new parks. They needed all kinds of things, amenities for the people he was going to bring in. So that's one. 1923, it happened again. That Manchester was one of the results of that initiative. And then after World War II, the initiative that led to All-America City Award But the key to all three of those was the community involvement, especially after World War II. There were 150 committees of all kinds that were established in the town. And so I have heard here that, you know, you are going to have some committees formed to kind of keep the initiative going, and I really applaud that, because one thing that we don't want to lose sight of is the fact that this is a community, and a community is made up of people that have opinions. We've voiced these tonight, we've written them down and so forth, but it's important for us to work with the city to keep this initiative going and not let it die out. So thank you.
I can't think of a better way to end a session like this. First of all, can someone from the city answer her question? Maybe after, yeah, we're 1 minute over. But thank you all for coming, and please, this is the beginning of a process, not the end. So please.
Will there be a follow-up? So at this point, we're going to invite everyone to come out and continue to engage with us as we gather the information, depending upon how it all comes out. That may then go into the committees to then put the RFQ together based on the information that we've got. Great question. Thank you. Thanks you all for being here.
I call to order and welcome you to the Middletown, Ohio special meeting of City Council for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. Thank you. Please join me for a moment of meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. Thank you, Paul. You will hear 3 taps of the gavel when it is time to stand. Please join me in a moment of meditation now. Clerk of Council, Mrs. Amy Skink, please call the attendance roll.
Mrs. Carter? Here. Mr. West?
Here.
Mr. Horn?
Here.
Mayor Slamka?
Here. Do we know why there's feedback? Amy? Okay. All right. Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is to accept and file the, receive and file the special meeting documents. Is there a motion to receive, accept and file?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. The next item on the agenda this evening is executive session. Do I hear a motion to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official?
Motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second? It has been properly moved and seconded to move to executive session. We will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. We will now move to executive session. Do we have a motion to return to open session? Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to return to open session, and we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. West?
Yes.
Yeses have it, the motion passes. Council will now return to open session. Is there a motion to terminate and cancel all contracts for legal services with Bricker Graydon LLP, including for law director and economic development services?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
The yeses have it, and the motion passes. Is there a motion to approve a contract for legal services with Frost Brown Todd LLP for all legal services and to serve as the city's law director?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote. Mrs. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. Lawley?
Yes.
Mrs. Carter? Yes. Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mayor Slanka?
Yes. The yeses have it, and the motion passes. This concludes our special meeting of the City Council for Middletown, Ohio on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. At 8:54 p.m. this evening, the meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, March 18th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in these chambers for our next regular City Council meeting. Thank you and good night.